Okay, everybody, evening. Let's call to order the Town Commission work session for the budget and Town Clerk.
Good evening, Commissioner Keller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Satterfield,
Present.
Mayor Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Motley,
Present.
and Commissioner McMillan is absent.
Okay, to clarify, this is for the 2026-2027 fiscal year budget work session is what this is. So Town Manager will present.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight, I want to provide a brief overview of the proposed constitutional amendment that will appear on the November 2026 ballot. And if approved by 60% of the voters, would take effect January 1, 2027. Gabby will go more into details on the budget, but just for the general public, I wanted to just kind of highlight what this proposed constitutional amendment would do. At a high level, this proposal represents one of the most significant property tax changes in Florida in decades, with direct implications for municipalities like Oakland. What the amendment does is, first, it substantially increases the homestead exemption up to $150,000 in 2027, increasing to $250,000 in 2028 for non-school taxes. For many homeowners, this could dramatically reduce or even eliminate their municipal property tax bill. Second, it limits annual assessment growth on non-homestead properties. It reduces the cap from 10% to 5%. Third, it restricts how local governments can use property tax revenues, prioritizing public safety, infrastructure, retirement contributions, debt, and general operations. Key impacts for the town of Oakland. From a local government perspective, there are several important considerations. First one is a reduced revenue base. With higher exemptions, a significant portion of Oakland's taxable value would be removed, directly affecting our primary general fund revenue source. There's being no backfill from the state. The current proposal does not include any guaranteed replacement funding for towns, cities, and counties. Ongoing revenue erosion. Because exemptions are tied to inflation, the taxable base could continue to shrink over time, compounding the impact year after year. Service delivery pressure. This would likely place increased pressure on maintaining service levels, particularly police and public safety, parks and rec, infrastructure maintenance. Reduced flexibility. Constitutional restrictions on spending would limit how the town can allocate property tax revenues moving forward. So in summary, while the House Joint Resolution 1F provides meaningful tax relief to property owners, it also represents a structural shift in how local governments are funded, with potential long-term impacts on municipal services and financial stability. Based on our analysis of the proposed constitutional amendment, staff has prepared a 3-year financial projection to illustrate the potential impacts on the town's revenue and operations. This evening, our Finance Director, Gabby Leon, will walk the Commission through that analysis in more detail. Gabby?
Hello, my name is Gabby and I'm the Finance Director for the Town of Oakland. Tonight is going to be our first budget workshop for the upcoming 26-27 budget. We will be focusing on the general fund in this workshop. We will be doing water, capital improvements, and impact fees in our next one, with the potential of a third workshop in August if that's needed. So let's begin. The purpose of our presentation is to present the Town Commission a summary of the preliminary budget numbers for general fund, our projected millage rate, and the projections for the following 2 years. Here is an outline of tonight's presentation and the order in which we will go in. Here are our budget principles. When creating this budget, We wanted to ensure we maintained a structurally balanced budget while prioritizing essential services and public safety as best as we could. We also wanted to preserve the town's financial stability and ensure transparency in all budget decisions. This slide shows the 10-year millage rate history, and as you can see, we based this budget on keeping the millage at 6.7 again. This slide provides a revenue breakdown, so there's a lot going on, but as you can see, the large blue portion of the graph, or the pie really, shows 59%, and that's going to be our ad valorem revenue. So that is what our property taxes bring in, which is about 6.6 million. And like I mentioned, that's 59% of our revenue coming into the town for 27. This is our biggest revenue source for the town. And then our next biggest revenue source is going to be sales and use taxes, which is at 21%. This includes communication sales tax, local gas tax, state revenue sharing, half-cent sales tax, and utility taxes for the town and through Duke, our energy provider. And this makes up about 2.3 million of the revenue for 26-27. This slide shows the breakdown of the expenditures. Again, there's a lot going on, but the top 3 departments are going to be the police department, which is the biggest slice out of the pie, which is the lime green, and that's about $3 million of the budget, or 28% of our total expenditures. Next is the fire services, which is the dark green towards the top, and that's at 2.6 million, or about 24% of the budget. And then general government, which is next to fire, and that's where most of our debt service comes out of. And that sits at about 1.5 million, or about 14% of our total expenditures for fiscal year 27. So the total budget for general fund is projected to be 11,208,819. Property values did increase approximately 12.18% from last fiscal year. The $11 million budget is based on the 6.7 millage that I presented earlier. And all budgets or all departments were tasked to try and implement a 10% reduction in any expenditures, especially in non-contracted expenses. And most of the line items do reflect those reductions from the prior fiscal year. The general fund budget does not include the use of reserves this year. And that allowed us to have a potential contingency of $124,000 for any unexpected expenses during the fiscal year. So as you all know, we do a zero-based budget. So whatever money comes in has to go out. So we have 11,208,000 coming in for revenue. So after all the expenditures are taken into consideration, what's left of that revenue is 124,000. That's not what we have in reserves. That's just what we have left after the 11 million comes in revenue. So I just want to make that clear. Our projected revenues haven't come in yet. Or I'm sorry, our projected reserves haven't come in yet. Our audit has wrapped up, and the auditors will be here July 14th, which is our first budget hearing in July. Not budget hearing, commission meeting. And they will be presenting what our unrestricted funds are. So we'll have a better understanding of what our town reserves are looking at. Last year, it was about 16 to 20%, which is good. That's in par. We want to be where other municipalities are. It's what GASB requires. So we were good. That keeps us afloat for several months. So moving on. Highlights of the general fund budget. The ad valorem revenue increased approximately by $700,000. This is due to the property values also increasing. However, with ad valorem and property values increasing, so did our fire rescue bill. We are waiting our final taxable property breakdown, but based on our preliminary numbers from the property appraiser's office, We are expecting our fire rescue bill to increase about $343,000 from last fiscal year. We're waiting for the final numbers to come in, and once they do, we will adjust accordingly. As for the rest of the expenditures, we have $180,000 set aside for more road resurfacing and paving in fiscal year 27. We also have $100,000 for our comp plan update. The town is required to transmit the proposed updated comp plan to the state by September of 2027. And we also have set aside $100,000 for a potential land purchase near Oakland Avenue roundabout. This is just a placeholder as per Mike Parker. He mentioned it would be beneficial for the town to purchase this small plot near Oakland Trails. We're not sure if it's going to happen, but we've allocated $100,000 for that. So any questions on that, you'll have to ask Mike Parker because he's the one that thinks that that's potential. So he just told me to put it in there. As for salaries and benefits, this employee salaries reflect a 3% COLA adjustment or cost of living adjustment for all town employees. We are maintaining the 18% retirement contribution for all the sworn officers in fiscal year 27. And the budget currently funds 100% of the employee-only health insurance premium. We've estimated a 9.5% increase. We're hoping that comes down. We don't want it to be any higher than 9.5%, but that's what's in the budget currently. We are still waiting our final premium numbers from our insurance broker. And if it does come in higher than 9.5%, then we'll have to reevaluate the employee's contribution to the health insurance, but we're hoping it comes in less. All right, this is a very busy slide. It's the last page in the packet. I had to add this slide after the fact, and so I attach it at the end. So hopefully you all have it. So this is the projections for the next 2 years. So this is what I used for said projections. This is our tax roll that comes from the property appraisers. So as Elise mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, we're trying to come up with some potentials for the 28 and 29 fiscal years and what the exemptions would look like for Oakland. I'm going to preface this with these are all forecasted numbers based on current and previous data. The property appraiser has not released the current tax roll. That doesn't come out till July 1st. So that is last year's. So a lot of the data that I'm using is from last year's numbers. And then current is the taxable value that they provided us. So I had to kind of work backwards. I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you, a lot of words. So just bear with me. If you have questions, I will answer it when I'm done, and I'll try and break it down. So I'm going to start now. In 2025, the town had a little over 1,300 homesteaded homes. So the way that I came up with this is this line right here draws down to your homesteaded numbers. So these are our exemptions. So if you take this number and divide it by 25,000, and you take this number and divide it by 25,000, and then you add the two and you get an average, it comes out to approximately 1,305. Okay. Same thing with this. If you take this and you divide it by 50,000, you get this number. So that's where I got that number from. So on the tax roll, it shows already how much is exempt from our taxable value. And out of the 116,000 that we already get exempt, which is at the bottom, so this is all of the exemptions. So this is where it starts at. And then you take into consideration all the exemptions. So these are all the things that residents are able to apply for to get a lesser assessed value. So right now we have about 116,000 as of 2025, 116 million, sorry. 66 million of that is homesteaded, okay? So to figure out what our potential new tax value would be, we had to figure out what our real taxable value is, which is this right here. So what I did is I took the 1,300 and I times that by, or multiplied it by 150,000. and then subtracted that number from the already exempt number that we don't already receive. That's from the 65 million. So I had to move everybody over here. So that's 195 million minus the 65 million that we already get. That gives us a new exempt value of 128 million. I subtracted this from this number down here. The way that I got this number, this is our new taxable value as of 2026. So on March 30 or May 31st, the property appraiser sends out a letter to everybody and says, your new total taxable value is going to be X amount of dollars. So that cities and towns and villages, they can all start working on their budget and they can figure out what their ad valorem is going to be. So this is what our total taxable value came in at. There's something called personal property. Usually it's no more than 55 million, but because I don't have that breakdown yet, this number and this number put together equals $1 billion for 2026. I just assumed that personal property is going to come in at around 55 million. So I subtracted it from the 1 billion. And this is what our estimated real property tax value is going to be for 2026. So from that 982, I took away our new exempt value. And I came up with a new tax base. Is everybody following? Yeah? Okay, cool. Then you add the real property back, the 55, because you can't take the exemption off of that because that has its own exemptions. And this is going to be our new taxable value. So this is what our new ad valorem is going to be based off of. So the 1 billion becomes 900 million. Does that make sense? Everybody following? Okay, cool. So this is what I based our 2028 ad valorem off of, because I don't know what the true breakdown is going to be, and I have to use what our 2026 taxable value is. So I took off the 150,000 exemption off of that, and this is what I base that off of. Correct. Yeah, so that would be what I projected October 1, the budget for October 1 to September 30th for 27-28 would bring in. No. I'll send you an email. So there, move you there. So here, so the way that we calculate ad valorem is you take your tax base, you times that by your millage, you divide it by 1,000, and then you assume that you're going to get 95% of it, because not everybody pays their taxes on time. And sometimes people get more exemptions after the fact. So you just assume you're going to get 95% of it. So after you do some quick math, it would help if I wouldn't go backwards. You get 5.7 million as ad valorem. So that's what I assumed we're going to get for 2028. Things may change. We might get some commercial online. There might be more homes that come online. There might be people who don't qualify for homestead. And so that might go up, but this is all I have. So this is what I had to base it off of, right? Now, sales and use taxes, charges for services, all of these are the same as 2027, so the previous year, because I don't know what those are going to be. These are all projected usually around April to May of the upcoming year, fiscal year. So because I can't project this 2 years in advance, I have to use what I think is going to come. So I left these the same, and these are pretty conservative. So these might also increase. These might also decrease, though, depending on what's going to happen. If for whatever reason more sales tax comes through later on, then these might come up. Or if more tax reform comes through, these might come down. I don't know. So I had to leave these the same to be conservative. But as you can see, 56% of ad valorem, or 56% is still ad valorem for the town. So the 2028 projections, these are the expenditures. I did a little, this will go away. I did a little calculation and I said out of ad valorem, because we have to use public safety to, ad valorem has to pay for public safety and certain things. public safety includes fire and police. It's going to cost us 5.2 million. So if we bring in 5.7, it costs us 5.2. We're going to have 485,000 in ad valorem. That's not all money. It's just ad valorem to fund the other departments. Okay. I did the same projections for 2029. All I did was I changed from 1,300. I did this to 250. So this increased even more. I used the same tax base, increased it just a little bit, got a new tax base, did the math again, got this for ad valorem, so it went down to 4.9, still left sales, all these taxes the same, because again, I cannot project it too far in advance. Tried to do as best as I could with the expenditures. I increased these by 5%. However, for ad valorem, we're bringing in 4.9. Public safety comes in at 4.9. We have a deficit of 42,000. So in 2029, based on these numbers that I projected, we're not going to have enough taxes or ad valorem, not taxes, just ad valorem to pay for public safety alone. So we're going to have to dip into the other things to pay for those. Here's it all put together so you can kind of see it a little bit better. So this is the year that we are discussing earlier. Go down. So we're at 11.2 million, like I mentioned. We projected that fiscal year 27-28, our budget's going to go down to 10.3. And in fiscal year 28-29, our budget's going to go down to 9.5. So that's how much revenue the town is projected to bring in. Ad valorem decreases approximately by $820,000 each year. Again, state revenues and taxes stay the same because I don't know they increase or decrease. As for expenditures, in order to maintain this deficit to not continue to increase, we've had to project no COLAs after fiscal year 27. Some categories reflect an increase of 5 to 10% reduction. Some of them reflect an increase of 5%, sorry. And then in fiscal year 27, the final payment for the school's bond goes away, but then the first payment increase for the school's AC loan goes up. So that's why in fiscal year 27-28, the debt service jumps up by about 400,000 because the loan payment or the bond payment drops off December of 2027, but then the first AC payment jumps up in April of 2028, so 4 months later. So we're going to be shelling out an extra 400,000 that we weren't originally expecting, because I don't think that when they made that agreement, they realized the way that our fiscal years fell. So that's why that increases so much. But based on the previous revenue and based on these projections for expenditures, we're going to have a deficit of 255,000 in 27-28, a possible deficit of 595,000 in 28-29. Again, possible revenues might increase, so those sales taxes might go up, other taxes might go up, so that might bring in more revenue. Same thing ad valorem, if commercial comes in, that might come up. But this is worst case scenario, and this is all that I have to base it off of. So,
And that's keeping the current service level.
keeping current service level, yes. So, aside from removing no COLAs, there is, I will say, not all service level. I did lie, just kidding. This does remove training, travel, and per diem for staff. It does remove community outreach programs and reduces capital improvements. So with those things being removed, we're still in a deficit. Any capital improvements that we have would have to come out of either impact fees if they qualify, or they would only be out of the water fund, because water fund is its own thing. It generates its own revenue. Or grants. We would have to qualify for grants, obviously. Not a guarantee. And we cannot assume any more debt because we don't have any money to pay for it. Sorry. Let me see. I think I have covered all of my points. Yeah. So this is where oh my God. This is where I'm gonna open it up. Back one. Here. Okay, so I'm gonna need some things from you guys. So as much as I love the praises and all the good things, and you guys did such a good job, and thank you so much for your hard work. And that's really nice. But I really need you guys to look at this budget and make any additional cuts or make any additions that need to be included. Because as much as I love the praises, I don't love mid-year changes, especially when we have a really tight budget to begin with. So if you guys have anything that you would like to see in this budget or anything that you would not like to see in this budget, I need you guys to come up with that and then tell me about it in the second budget workshop. Or tell me now if you know something right now, because you guys have been able to review this. But if you need more time, we're going to have a secondary budget workshop July 28th. So I'm giving you guys homework to really take a deep dive into it and tell me what it is that you're looking for, because any changes or additions or anything like that that we make in this fiscal year or upcoming are going to have a butterfly effect in 28 and 29. So we really need to be conscious of what we're adding or taking away. So but keep the praises coming. I like them, but please, I need your help. So I'll open it up to these lovely people to see if they have any questions or comments, and then we'll give it to you guys. Does that sound good? Is that good, Garrett? Am I allowed to do that? Okay, great.
Yeah, Ed. On up. That's it.
Ed Kulikowski, 51 Vandermeer Street. Seems pretty dire if this amendment passes and all our exemptions increase. My personal view is that I don't think we can, in the land of inflation that we live in now, continue to cut and reduce services and assume that they're going to remain the same. I think that's not appropriate for doing our projections. The other thing that I didn't hear mentioned, and maybe you know this, Gabby, in order to make ourselves whole and recover that $500,000 shortfall, what would our millage rate need to change to for the remaining property values in order to make us whole again?
I haven't run the numbers for millage. I was waiting for direction, but I can absolutely run that. We do have a new law or statute that came into play that I would like to mention. So we are to, if I'm understanding it right, we are to assume the rollback rate. And it's been changed. So it's not per capita anymore. So it's actually less. And if you're going to increase your millage from the rollback rate, you can't go more than 10%. So if our rollback rate is like, I don't know, let's just say 5.0, and we want to make our millage rate 6.7, we have to make sure that that's not more than 10%. If it is more than 10%, then you guys have to vote on it, and it has to be a unanimous vote that you all want to raise it. But we also can't go more than 10 as a millage. So we kind of have to.
Is that 10% of the back number?
Yes. So we have to kind of, the DR 420 with the property appraiser and the state, they sent out a notice that they are redoing it right now to now recalculate that new rollback rate. So once we start working on that number, I'll figure out what the rollback rate is and then look at what those actual true ad valorem numbers are going to be and what it would be to either leave our millage at 6.7, what that percentage increase would be. If it's close to the 10 or at 10, then we have to vote on it. And then if we have to go above that, then I have to figure that out because I'm not really sure what the legislature says for that. But to answer your question, Ed, I don't know what we have to get it to bring in that deficit. I will get that number to you and I will email it to you.
Is that something you can calculate by the next meeting?
Yeah, I can calculate it by tomorrow.
Well, I mean, next meeting, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I could do it by next meeting for sure. But yeah, we do have to tread a little lightly when it comes to millage.
Well, and isn't there, I know we've had conversations about, depending upon what happens, we may have to assess some fees on our residents to make up that shortfall. Obviously, we have to create an ordinance to do that, I believe.
So let me address a couple things. So as far as the millage, Ed, I mean, I think that will be one of the things we look at. However, we don't want to put a disproportionate amount of this increase on our renters and our businesses either, because why would a business then come to Oakland versus Winter Garden or somewhere else, right? I mean, we're already high. Our businesses pay a lot of taxes, and then for us just to put additional burden on them may deter some of them, when what we need to do right now is really get the businesses in, right, to boost our assessed values up to start with, because those businesses, one of the things I mentioned and why I mentioned it is that the part of this House Joint Resolution was that the cap on assessed values for non-homestead properties reducing from 10% to 5%. So that's going to put a damper on our revenues already from businesses year after year. But it definitely is one of our options on the table. As Commissioner Keller mentioned, we're also looking at non-ad valorem taxes for fire, stormwater. Well, also, one of the things that we've asked our department heads to do is to go back and look at the things that we are doing, that we've been doing for a long time, maybe for free, picking up big debris piles, taking care of some of the backflow prevention tests on our dime that might need to get passed on to the residents. So we're going to look at everything, lay it out, and determine, how we can best close this gap in addition to making cuts.
Gabby,
I don't know.
anybody else? Oh, yeah.
Mr. Gill.
Mr. Gill? Yep.
John Gill, live at 19 West Sadler. So I might have missed this point, but are these projections based on what our ad valorem is now and going into the future? This is not, doesn't have anything to do with what might happen. So if that happens, it's just going to get
No.
demonstrably worse.
No, she already factored that in.
This is if they pass in Tallahassee, the homestead bill they're going.
Well, they have passed it. It's going to the vote. It's up to the voters at this point.
And these numbers are based on that happening.
Yes. Yes. So that's one of the things that, myself, Commissioner McMullen, others have spoken about while this, and I had the opportunity to kind of lean over Elisa's shoulder while she was watching the hearings live from Tallahassee. And there were so many good points brought up. I'm sure our Representative Spencer might share some things with this when he comes up. But, there was talk about a fund that the state was going to have to replace. Well, that got kicked out. There were all these things. There's just really, this is kind of a debauchery of a plan. It's like, oh, we're just going to do this and get rid of all this money, but we're not going to come up with any alternative for funding. I know I've lived in my home and I've owned a home in Florida for, 26 years now. And I honestly don't think my taxes are that bad because I'm already benefiting from Save Our Homes. And even when I moved out here, I was able to port my Save Our Homes from my old house. I'm concerned that I could end up paying more, through whatever means end up being created to make up these losses. So I think it's important that we all are very mindful of, this is going to be on the ballot and it has to pass by, I believe, 60%. So,
Right. Okay.
And I just want to add that I think that in the projections, I heard that you did make the reduction for the 150 and the 250 in the subsequent years. So the projections that are there account for the potential that the bill passes the vote, and this is what our numbers look like from that capacity. And I think that's very critical for residents to know that we're looking ahead in that fashion to give you some as good real numbers as we can.
Yeah. Based on how many to get exemptions in there. New tax, estimated tax base,
Mhm.
off current tax base. So those projections are projections, but they are based. That taxable value might go up in 27, might be a little bit higher, but it's
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thank you, John. Anybody else? So if we can, you want to start with Commissioner Keller, if you have any questions or comments? Ask Gabby.
no, I appreciate the thoroughness of this and again, the reflection of showing us the upcoming years and how, it'll be impacted. Again, if it does pass, I think it's important to be proactive and look at it because, again, I think as leaders in our community, I think it's important that we share the information so that when people do have the opportunity to vote in November, they have all the information and they can vote with what they think is truly best. But having this information is really important. I mean, how many people will take the time to look at it? I know is another thing, but I know we've talked about whatever we can do to educate our residents, at least in our area, on how this is going to impact things so people can at least vote with correct knowledge. So I appreciate the information. I've looked through it pretty thoroughly, but I will certainly continue to and follow up with you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Comment or two. I do believe that we should try and keep our policing, because the town of Oakland, we all feel pretty safe here. So if we can keep that where it's at. As a former government employee, that 3% COLA for government employees, I think that needs to stay. We got to keep good people working in this town. So if that's something that needs to be worked on, let's work on that. The healthcare, if you can put some, if it's paid 100%, maybe defer a little bit to an employee contribution, if that helps any, to keep some of the other things that we need. So that's just a couple things I wanted to put in.
Thanks, John. Good points.
Well, and that is a question that I did have is it common for municipal employees to have 100% coverage? Is that, I mean, I think it's wonderful that we do it, but is it a common thing? Because to John's point, we have great staff here and we want to keep our staff here. And I would hate to see us start to lose staff because, we're not in line with what other municipalities do.
Let's let Ashley maybe
Yeah.
speak to that.
Hi, Ashley Wuspity, Human Resource Manager and Payroll. County-wise, on the county level, no. But when you look more towards the village, town, city, generally this is relatively common. If anything, it's a maximum of 4%. But 0 is for employee only is relatively common in this area.
Yeah, I came from a different municipality where it was paid for 100% for the first couple of years that I was there. And then it just got to be too much. So then they paid about a portion of it, like let's just say 50%. Then the employee was paying the rest and it ended up being like $10 per pay period. So they were able to work it where it was fairly low and it was still a benefit for the employee. So That's just my experience, but so I did come from somewhere where it was paid for 100%, so.
Commissioner Motley, anything for you?
Oh,
Oh, Ed, did you have?
Sorry, Gabby, thinking back to my working days, when we talk about 100% payment, is that for the employee only or is that for the employee and family?
Employee only.
Employee only, okay.
And it's only health insurance, so the employee is responsible for vision and dental, and then they're responsible for their family or their spouse, so. And we have different plans, so they can choose from different plans if they'd want to, so.
oh boy, so much. But definitely thank you, Gabby, and the finance department for your comprehensive plan because all of my notes were almost completely covered, but not all way. So, from a perspective of the budget being balanced and having the cost reductions by department, applause for that. However, since we're on the topic of the health insurance, I don't believe I heard when we're going to anticipate those numbers coming in. And, you know, what would be the contingency plan if it came in a little higher than,
I'm gonna refer to Ashley on that
Yeah,
because she's working directly with the broker.
This was actually one of the reasons why we changed brokers because they are going to be a little bit more aggressive to our benefit. We are anticipating the 9.5%. Hopefully, it comes down lower than that. Because of our size, we can't have an actual negotiation until 60 days out. So it's going to be just a little bit more time before we get those numbers in, but they are currently actively working on that for us, and they're trying to get those numbers in ahead of time, knowing specifically what we're up against in November. The contingency plan at this point, as our town manager and Gabby have already said, is we don't anticipate any pass-through to the employees, but that's just what it's at right now. We don't anticipate any pass-through to the employees at this point.
Yeah, if anything, we might just maybe switch plans, which is not what we want, just because it feels like we're always switching plans. And we have had pretty decent luck with Florida Blue, and that's what everybody seems to like. But if push comes to shove and we have to switch to, you know, Aetna or Cigna or somewhere like that, then that's what we have to do. So.
second question, which I believe is HR driven as well, with regard to the police retirement contribution. Is that standard practice for municipalities at that percentage?
Yes, and this is part of a proposed step progression. So at this point, there was an anticipated step up to 20%, but we need to make sure that what we're doing is sustainable. Therefore, we can't go the extra 2% to 20% as we had anticipated, and we're keeping it at 18%.
Thank you. I'll direct the remaining questions to Elise with regard to individual departments.
John, now let's go a little more. Sorry, the money that you have put in for the roads, it's been a hot topic. I want to make sure that we've got all the plans in place. That is the right number for what we need to do. You were working on a plan yes. Well, no, just not in general. All of big streets, that's a little different.
I think his question was, is 180,000 in the next year's budget going to be adequate for the amount of roads that we need to get done?
Yeah, it was more the bigger picture of general, sorry.
So right now, the only thing we've budgeted for next year for the roads for the 180,000 is Southern Oaks.
So thank you for that. The other thing obviously is, I know, we've talked about it and the school debt service going away and got to go for the HVAC and I understand that. So the HVAC goes from 27, 28 to 28 to 29 from 471 all the way to 610. Why is that such a big jump? And I don't remember, when we did that, how long that goes on for.
So I believe the HVAC goes to 2030. Um, and it had a contingency in there that in 2020, fiscal year 27 would jump up because the bond would drop and then that would go up. The problem is that it's going up in April. So the HVAC payment is every 6 months. So one's in October and one's in April. So the one in April goes up by $200,000. So I think it's that. If not, it's 400,000. I'd have to pull the actual number, but it's a lot more than was anticipated. We thought that one was dropping off and then in October of 27, so for fiscal year 28, that's when the HVAC payments would go up, but it's not. It's going up in April. And so does the interest and everything. Everything's going up.
And my reasoning is just such as important as anything else is when we get to the budget for the school. You know, my concern is teacher pay because we've got to keep teacher retention the same way too. So we're looking for every way to find out where that is. And that's why I kind of bring that up when I'm just looking for places to put money for them. So.
Yeah, I believe Pam does have budgeted raises. I want to say it's like 3% for them. Right now, the way that the payments from the school come in, so they pay their rent and then their management fees. So they pay about $80,000 in management fees and 720,000 in rent. All of that is going to debt service right now. So the town's really not keeping any of it. And it's even more so going up, you know, with the HVAC, those payments, literally all of it is going towards that. So right now it's being split between the bond and the AC. Once the AC goes up, it's all going towards AC. So as of right now, it doesn't look like we can reduce anything towards the school. Maybe if the payments start coming down as the years go on, maybe we can do that. But as of right now, I'm not in a position to agree with that. But Pam does have all of that still budgeted in there. It doesn't look like she has deprived the teachers of any sort of a raise.
And I don't have any indication of that either. I just, it's my normal concern this time of year.
Yeah.
Get it, so.
Yeah, no, her budget is looking actually really good this year. So, or this upcoming year.
Didn't mean to switch gears on it. That was just the question. Thank
Well,
you.
yeah, because based on Pam's presentation of the budget, it's all funded separately from Orange County Public Schools funding rate. So-
Yes, and it looks like she's going to be receiving some sort of sales tax this year.
Yep.
That she just started getting.
And
So
schools aren't impacted, right? That was one of the carve outs. Wasn't schools one of the carve outs in the?
That's correct. They did carve that out.
Okay.
Theoretic.
mhm. Police and well, public safety in schools.
And that's all I have.
I'm gonna go a little deeper in the weeds here. And just for full transparency, I sent these questions to Elise and Gabby yesterday, just for the commission, but I want to put them on the record here so that everybody's aware and you guys are aware. First thing I want to start with is that Elise has, you know, our biggest piece of the pie is always life safety with the police and the fire. I agree with you, John. When you need them, you need them, and do everything you can not to cut any of those services that you have. The fire has always been, and it has been for the last 2 years, a thorn in our side right now. So Elise, our town manager, has reached out to Orange County Fire Department to ask for a breakout of what it costs to run this station. Does it really cost $2.2 million? Does it really cost the 2.5 that it's going to go up? So far, public records request was made to them, and so far
They don't budget by station. So then I asked, can I see your entire budget and the number of stations you have so we can extrapolate what 60% of a station would be. So far, I haven't received that information. They indicated they would get to me what they could get to me. But again, I have not received any information from them. But we will need that information if we're going to go try to do a non-ad valorem fire fee anyway.
Yeah, so I'm of the opinion that it's a big chunk of the pie is what it is. And in my opinion, I don't think that the model they're using should be driven by taxable income or taxable property like they're doing now, because I mean, it should be per unit, right? I would think that the cost to put out a $1 million homes is the same cost to put out a $300,000 home, right? So those are just some of the things that, just to let everyone know that we're still pushing those guys. It's like pulling teeth to get something out of them is what's happening. Also, the questions I posed to Gabby, and you can read your responses, Gabby, if you want, is in fiscal year 26, 27 expenses are they a one-time versus reoccurring? That's what I asked her, was question one. You want to, what you said?
So I said that the one-time purchases or the one-time expenses are the comp plan update and then the roads. Nothing else is recurring aside from regular town operations, and we don't have extra funds for any additional projects unless we pull from reserves. And then Elise reminded me about the Meritage land purchase as a one-time expense, so we put that in there as well.
Right. And then I asked, are our planning, zoning, building, legal fees, engineering fees being fully recovered from the cost of development from the developers? We're not pushing the developer's pushing the development. So in my mind, the developer should fully reimburse the town for development.
And I said, in theory, yes. So everything gets charged to what's called a chargeback code. So anything that's development driven gets coded to that one development code, and then they get invoiced individually to the developers or to whoever's running that development. The problem is that there's always a delay in payment because they don't always pay on time, and sometimes they decide to argue on what payments they want to pay or don't want to pay. But then we also get billed in arrears from our contractors. So not to put both on the thing, but both and Wildan and or not Wildan, Waytrim and CPH and anybody else that we use that is doing development driven work, they bill us in arrears. And so sometimes it's a month in arrears, sometimes it's 5 months in arrears because they like to do it all together in one and then invoice. And so, you know, by the time I review it and get it in there and give it to the developers, then they want to go through it and itemize it themselves and be like, well, what's that for? And I'm like, I don't know. You have to go back to that person. So then by the time we get payment, it's one fiscal year already. So the town might have already shelled out the money in, let's just say, fiscal year 26, but we don't get that money until your fiscal, next fiscal year. So.
Okay. I got 7 minutes and I got like 4 questions. So then I asked a question about what service levels would change under the fiscal year 27, 28 and fiscal year 28, 29 reductions. So service levels are what we currently see today.
So I had said, because you mentioned, for example, with roads or police or core staff, and I said roads will definitely be reduced. We do not have any extra revenue in general fund to pay for maintenance on roads without removing of other services or core staff.
Okay. Mike, you touched on road resurfacing. I'll skip that. Then I asked finance, what is the minimum reserve policy? We have one.
We do not have the town does not have a minimum reserve. We would like the budget reserve, so what I had mentioned as contingency, to be about $500,000 or more. However, that's not always feasible. Our actual reserves reflect about 16 to 20% of our expenditures, which is on par with GASB standards and keeps us in compliance. However, it took us a very long time to get there. Finance is not comfortable using reserves to balance the budget, as that is our only source of savings. If an act of God, major disaster, or the world were to come to a stop, like COVID, we could operate the town for just a few months on our current reserves. If we continue to dip into it, it will dwindle to weeks, days, hours, et cetera.
Yep, and that goes, my second question was, are we comfortable as a town to use those reserves to offset the tax changes that state property tax changes that gets reserved? The last question I had, maybe it was more of a statement, or well, maybe it was a statement. Staff working on, if not already, a structural balance plan. I know in the comments it talked about elimination of staff or either cutting hours of staff or whatever. Before any of that's done, I think we really need to have a hard look at it. Because like you said, John, I agree with you, we do not want to lose staff. Once you start losing that, you start cutting that, you'll never get it back. And I think we're in a really good place right now in town on what we have. So it would do everything we can to keep that. And I will echo, John, you again, conversation, it's about, it shouldn't all be about cutting. I think our goal is to try to protect the core services that we have. And how do we work around trying to protect those core services with the cards that we're dealt? And it goes back to the conversation of millage, obviously, non-ad valorem fees, just offset some costs. But whatever we have to do to not use those reserves that we can. But we'll see what this impact does to us. I mean, this is a great start here. And I'm glad we did the exercise.
Yeah, I do want to, we do stand to lose some money if this passes. We are in a much better position than other villages and towns and counties and municipalities. So although we are going to be seeing a big hit and we don't know what would happen after 29, there are some cities that are going to see it this year. They're going to see it next fiscal year. So we're in a much better position. So we will try our hardest to make sure that we stay afloat. So.
Yeah, and I know that Rep. Spencer can probably for this as well as a town, and Elise has reminded me this a bunch of times that we can't tell the citizen how to vote because it is going on the ballot in November. All we can do as a municipality, and when I say municipalities, we're all in the same boat with Ocoee, Winter Garden, Windermere, and Apopka. All of us have been kind of communicating together about what's happening here. All we can do is educate, and just like we're doing tonight. Hopefully, this is kind of educational to everybody of what could happen. So, anything else?
No, just here you go. Good job. You did a very good job with the presentation. It might not have been exactly what we wanted to hear, but it needs to be that way. And the staff I've watched our staff grow, believe me, for a long, long time to what we have right now. I personally have faith we're going to figure it out and get through it. Staff comes together wonderfully. So thank all of you guys for that.
All right, we'll close this and we'll readjourn or reconvene here in a couple minutes.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you guys. So more people funneled in, so that's great to see. So I'd like to call to order the Oakland Town Commission meeting for June 23rd, 2026. If everyone please stand and remain standing for the pledge. I'd like to invite our chaplain, Andy Jones, up, do the invocation.
Good evening, everyone. I had an opportunity to speak with Mayor beforehand and asked if I could say a couple things because I just know quite a bit of stuff right now and get coffee together. I want to say on behalf of the mayor, and just because I've had a chance to get to know him a little better, you got a fine man representing you. It's great to see him where he's at. And so I will never deny my faith. I will never deny that. What he said was that I say it the way I would say it if I was saying it anyplace else. So I want you all to know that as your chaplain, and I'm also effective, that I will be consistently praying for everyone in this meeting, and that God will oversee. So if you would help me. Heavenly Father, we just invite you to this meeting today. We know that you are the maker of all. We know that nothing goes past your hands that you're not aware of. And so this is not catching you by surprise where this town's at, nor the other towns that are going on. For those who lose sight of you, they lose sight of hope. So, Father, I pray that you would put wisdom into the council leadership, to its departments and all the heads that are being here, that are represented here today. That you would give them wisdom. You would guide them to the way that in this town, restore it to the place that you would like to see it. And with that being said, Father, I just ask you, into this town, into this time, this community, say, back to Oakland, please protect all officers and all the first responders that respond to this town. I would ask you to protection, making leadership decisions in here. We know the enemy never had decisions. Didn't remember. Council, as well as
I hope that microphone was on when you said those kind words, Andy.
You give him his money.
I gave him my $50 a month. I gave him, paid him that, say that. Oh, I gave you Mike's check too. So yeah, that's what I did. All right. Good evening, Kathy.
Good evening. Commissioner Keller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Satterfield,
present.
Mayor Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Motley,
Present.
Commissioner McMullen is absent.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a couple of presentations and one presentation, a proclamation tonight. I'd like to invite up our State Representative Leonard Spencer to the podium, who is going to provide us some updates. So Representative Spencer, thank you very much for taking the time to come out and visit with us tonight. I know you have a very busy schedule.
Yeah, of course, Mayor. Thank you all for having me, and good evening to you again, Mayor, to the council members, to the staff, and most of all to the residents who are here tonight. It's always my pleasure to be here in Oakland. It is a jewel here in Central Florida, and I'm very proud to call not just this area, but I'm very proud to say that I spent a lot of time in Oakland. And as you know, we finally concluded our work in Tallahassee. After an extended legislative session, we have budget negotiations, special sessions on redistricting and property taxes, which was just discussed. I wanted to come here tonight just to spend some time and hopefully provide an update on some of the things that we've accomplished, the issues I fought for, and what it means for Oakland and the residents here in House District 45. Now, when I first ran for office, I made a commitment to focus on 3 priorities, and they were affordability, opportunity, and innovation. And these priorities will continue, and they have continued to guide my work every day. And they've shaped much of the work that I was able to accomplish this legislative session. But before I begin, I want to go back to where I started and just recognize something special about this town of Oakland. Oakland is one of the communities that reminds us that growth and preservation do not have to be opposing forces. When done thoughtfully, we can protect our natural resources, preserve our community character, and still create opportunity for future generations. Oakland has worked hard to strike that balance. It has protected its unique character, invested in its quality of life, and served as a steward of some of our region's most important environmental assets, such as Lake Apopka. That commitment to thoughtful growth and responsible stewardship is something I deeply respect, and one of the reasons that I'm proud to represent this community in Tallahassee. Now, I want to begin with what we accomplished around affordability. Like many Floridians, I believe we have to continue to look for ways to make our state more affordable. Families continue to feel pressure from rising housing costs, insurance premiums, and everyday expenses. Addressing these challenges is my top priority in Tallahassee. That's why I oppose the property tax proposal considered during the special session. While I support meaningful tax relief, I believe that any proposal has to include a responsible and sustainable plan to replace the revenue that supports our essential services. Property taxes help fund public safety, parks, roads, infrastructure, and other services we discussed tonight that residents rely on every day. And we can and should pursue affordability, but we must do it in a way that preserves the quality of life that makes communities like Oakland such a special place to call home. I was also proud to support legislation that expands opportunities for Floridians with disabilities by allowing those individuals to work, to save, and pursue greater economic independence without immediately losing access to critical healthcare benefits. In addition to this legislation, we also were able to advance legislation that supported veterans and military families through expanded housing opportunities and protections for benefits intended to support children of veterans. Now, my second priority was opportunity. One of the most significant debates this year centered around state preemption and the continued shift of decision-making authority away from local governments like Oakland up to Tallahassee. Throughout this session, I remained focused on protecting local control and ensuring that municipalities retain the flexibility that they need to address the unique challenges and opportunities within their communities. I believe the people who live, work, and raise their families here in Oakland should have a meaningful voice in shaping the future of their town. While statewide standards have their place, local leaders are best positioned to make decisions that reflect the values and priorities of their residents. We also passed legislation that allowed high school students to volunteer at polling locations. This encourages civic engagement at an early age and helps prepare the next generation of leaders, and it helps to also strengthen our democracy. Beyond legislation, we created opportunity, and that means ensuring that West Orange County receives its fair share of state investment. And this year I worked to support infrastructure improvements, transportation investments, and workforce development initiatives that strengthen our region's long-term quality of life. That commitment extends beyond a single legislative session. As you know, in previous years, I helped secure funding for the Northwest Wastewater Extension as part of the South Lake Apopka Initiative. This is an investment that supports environmental restoration, responsible growth, and the long-term health of our region. It is an example of the type of work I will continue to champion for Oakland and the communities throughout West Orange County. Finally, on innovation. Florida's future depends on our ability to prepare for what comes next, while ensuring that innovation improves the lives of the people we serve. This year, I supported legislation that establishes statewide safety standards for e-bikes. As e-bike usage continues to grow across Central Florida and along our shared use trails, it's important that we create clear expectations that protect both riders and pedestrians while also collecting the data needed to guide future policy decisions. I'm also proud that our office successfully passed legislation that positioned Florida as leader in advanced air mobility. This bill creates the framework for future vertiport development and emerging aviation technologies that help reduce congestion, support economic growth, and improve transportation options throughout our region. Innovation must always be balanced with stewardship. And this year we were able to pass the Joe Costello Act. And this phases out firefighting foam containing PFAS, commonly known as forever chemicals. Now, these substances have been linked to serious environmental and health concerns. The legislation helps protect Florida's water resources and supports the long-term health of our community. For a town like Oakland, which places such high value on conservation and environmental preservation, this is an important step towards protecting the natural resources that make our region unique. As Oakland and the surrounding communities continue to grow, it's critical that growth is accomplished by the infrastructure, planning, and investments necessary to maintain the quality of life that our residents so highly value. And my goal in all of this remains simple: to create opportunity, protect what matters to our communities and what makes it special, and to ensure that state governments remain a strong partner in building a brighter future for the people we serve. I want to thank all of you for your continued partnership, your leadership, and your commitment to this town. It's an honor to represent Oakland in the Florida House of Representatives, and I look forward to continuing to work together to build a future that is more affordable, more prosperous, and full of opportunity for everyone. May God bless the town of Oakland, the great state of Florida, and these United States of America. Thank you, and I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Representative Spencer. I would like to say thank you very much for, just so everybody knows, Representative Spencer carried our appropriations for the septic to sewer that we're continuing to do for $1.5 million. And last time we checked, it's still on there. It hasn't been line itemed out yet.
Not yet.
We got until what, the 30th? Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Very, very close. So thank you for doing that. And any questions for Brett?
Appreciate you, man.
Doing my best.
Anybody in the audience have any questions? No? Okay.
Quiet crowd. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. I know you have a plane to catch, so please, thank you, sir. All right, moving on to proclamation, and then I'm excited about this proclamation. And everybody should be excited about this one. Proclamation recognizing the 250th anniversary of the United States of America and Independence Day, 2026. Whereas on July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence established the United States of America and proclaimed to the world the revolutionary ideals of liberty, self-government, individual rights, and the belief that all people are created equal, America's founding fathers embarked upon the bold and unprecedented experiment of self-government, establishing a nation founded upon liberty, individual rights, personal responsibility, and the consent of the governed. Despite challenges and trials throughout its history, the American experiment has endured for 2.5 centuries, strengthened by the courage, determination, innovation, and faith of generations of citizens. The story of America is one of courage and conviction, built by generations who believed that freedom is worth defending, opportunity is worth pursuing, and self-government is worth preserving. For 250 years, the United States has stood as a beacon of freedom, opportunity, and democracy, inspiring people throughout the world and serving as a symbol of hope for those seeking liberty and a better future. Countless Americans have sacrificed their lives, devoted themselves to public service, and answered the call for duty to preserve the freedoms and institutions that have made our nation strong. From the nation's founding generations to those serving today in our armed forces, first responder agencies, and public institutions, Americans have demonstrated courage, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to the principles upon which this nation was built. The town of Oakland is proud to be part of the American story and recognizes that the freedoms and opportunities enjoyed by its residents today are the results of the sacrifices, vision, and perseverance of those who came before us. The nation's semi-quincentennial provides an opportunity for all Americans to reflect upon our shared history, honor those whose sacrifices secured and protected our freedoms, and inspire future generations to uphold the principles upon which our nation was founded. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Oakland proudly joins communities throughout the United States in celebration of the town's semi-quincentennial and the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, honoring the generations of Americans whose sacrifice, vision, determination secured the blessings of liberty for ourselves and future generations. Now, therefore, I, Shane Taylor, Mayor of Town of Oakland, Florida, on behalf of the Town Commission and the citizens of Oakland, do hereby proclaim July 4th, 2026 as a day of celebration, remembrance, and gratitude, and encourage all residents to reflect upon the freedoms we enjoy, honor those who have defended them, and recommit themselves to the ideals of liberty, personal responsibility, civic engagement, and service to our nation. So thank you, everybody, and hope everybody has a great 4th of July.
Mayor, do you want to get a picture with Representative Spencer
Yeah.
before he leaves?
Sure, let's do it. Yeah. Okay, next on the agenda is our consent agenda, and this is the approval of the June 9th, 2026 Town Commission regular meeting minutes. Any questions or comments? None, I'll entertain a motion.
Consent agenda as presented.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Ordinance, we have an ordinance for Briley Farms. This is ordinance 2026-04, first reading of Briley Farms Phase 1 Plan Development, the Development Agreement Amendment.
An ordinance of the Town of Oakland, Florida, adopting a first amendment to the development agreement for the Briley Farm Phase 1 Plan Development as recorded in the public records of Orange County, Florida, document number 2024-033-9441, and approving the revised preliminary subdivision plan on certain real property owned by Briley Land Holding, LLC, as more particularly described herein, making findings and providing for conflicts, severability, and for an effective date.
Thank you. And our contracted town planner, Sarah, how are you? From Waitrim, presenting.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Nessa. I'm your town's contracted planner. Today we have ordinance 2026-04 for the Briley Farm Phase 1 amendment to the plan development and the development agreement. A quick summary. This project is approximately 36 acres. Its design district is the traditional neighborhood, and it is zoned planned development. This is a site map of the Briley Farm Phase 1, and then lot 10 and 12 in the blue are what we're going to be discussing tonight. So the requested action, it's to amend the PD in the development agreement, and it's to incorporate 302 Briley Ave, which is lot 12, into the development. And then the developer would like to split lot 10 and 12 into 3 lots. This would increase the total allowable single-family home lots from 53 to 55. And then once subdivided, we'll assign the newly configured lots a type D lot type, which is governed by the design guidelines and architectural standards manuals. And then through this amendment, they're also adding just some streetscape guidelines and additional landscape material recommendations for the lots. This quickly shows on the left what is currently there, and then on the right is how they would like to reconfigure the lots. And then this is how it would be represented in the design book. You can see the reassignment of those 3 lots with the lot type D. This is just a quick excerpt of what standards are applied to lot type Ds. This is what would be applied to these 3 lots. And then the next few slides are those additional streetscape guidelines and the additional landscape material recommendations for the subdivision. So we did an analysis. These lots are in the traditional neighborhood design district, which have minimum lot sizes. So for the interior lots, that minimum width is 50 and the depth is 125. And then for corner lots, the minimum width is 60 and the minimum depth is 125. We reviewed all the proposed sizes for each lot, and they were all compliant with the minimum lot sizes. So we also did an analysis of the facilities and services. We have confirmed there's adequate capacity for water and availability of sewer through the interlocal agreement. And then these lots will be subject to school concurrency and applicable impact fees. So this did go to ARB on June 2nd, and they unanimously recommended approval of the ordinance as it was presented. Additionally, it went to P&Z on June 16th with the same unanimous recommendation of approval as presented. Staff has recommended our staff has reviewed everything provided and also recommend that the Town Commission approve ordinance 2026-04 to amend the Briley Farm Phase 1 PD and development agreement to bring in Lot 12 and to subdivide them into 3 lots, providing for a new total of 55 single-family home lots in this phase. So what next steps? If you guys, this will go to the adoption hearing based on your recommendation today. So you'll see this again on July 14th.
Sarah?
Absolutely. And I know that the applicant's representative is here as well. If you have any questions I'm unable to answer. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Any questions? This is this is where Mrs. Voss old house was. We're just bringing that property in.
Correct.
Is that-
Yes. Initially it was excluded, but they've acquired that and would like to bring it into the project.
The interesting thing is that I live right behind you.
Mhm.
All those lots were 3 lots at one time. So
Okay.
it's going back to exactly what it was, you know, years and years.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's consistent with the rest of the lots that are in there, pretty much.
Yes, I think the 1 through 11 are slightly larger. It's probably the size of them are midpoint between the 47 and 54, and then those larger lots on the same block. But it is consistent in terms of the minimum lot sizes. I think they actually exceed those.
You have 80 feet versus 55, so they're
Correct.
145 deep, each of them. So
Yes. Yeah. So they exceed that minimum limitation.
one's 199, that's the corner lot. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, it is a ordinance. Does anybody in the public have any comments or questions they'd like to bring up? I know we have a couple of members of our ARB and P and Z. Thank you guys for taking a look at this as well. Appreciate you. No one? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back here. And any other questions? Okay, so we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance 2026-04, first reading of Briley Farms Phase 1 Plan Development and Development Agreement Amendment.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you,
Easy.
guys.
Thank you. All right, moving on to public forum. We'll open it up to anyone, any resident that has any comments or questions that was not on tonight's agenda. Any takers tonight? Come on up, John. Sure, I know what your question's going to be.
On Hammerstein, 306 Vic Avenue. Just to follow up on 2 weeks ago, discussion about paving and
Vic.
all the complexities around that. I don't know where we're at. If there's updates for that, is there possibly a different way of thinking about all this? I drove around, what is it? What's the neighborhood across from me?
Southern Oak.
Southern Oaks. There are some areas that need fixing. But there's areas that are much better shape than most roads in town. I don't know if it's a chance to spot pick things. Or I'm just trying to get it all done somehow, some way. And I don't know if there's been any more thought about this or if
Yeah, I'll let the town manager answer. Working on it.
So what we did, number one, I went back and looked at all the meeting minutes prior to the last meeting, and there was never a motion made on East Vic. There was discussion about it, definitely. There might have been people that said we would look into it. And that was all I was able to find. So what we are doing so that the commission can make an educated decision is putting together all the data. So we're getting additional bids on what it would cost to pave that. We're looking at, we may need to do some additional studies to determine what, if any percentage of impact fees could be used for the project. As I mentioned at the last meeting, it is not currently in the budget, so we would need to determine where that money was coming from. And then that information, hopefully by July 14th, the next commission meeting will have that in the packet so that the commission can make an informed decision on that as a group.
Okay. You know, we were here before that neighborhood was built. And at that time, a neighborhood coming in with paved roads was a big deal. A lot of discussion about that. And seems to me, I remember that the neighborhood original agreement was that they would maintain their own roads. I don't know if that's something that can be researched or figured out. I don't know that it, because it really wasn't a burden to the town. I thought about that initially too. So I would like council to look into that and see if that's an agreement that was made that's just kind of lost. I'm done. All right.
Perfect, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Oh, go ahead.
So I had an opportunity to do a ride along with Janelle this week and get a little greater understanding of the millings that are there. And I had a reasonable alternative thought that I've spoken to Elise with at least just tonight. Maybe we take a look at the contract for the company that laid the millings and see what, if any, recourse we may have or a potential, come back out, replace it, restructure it. Was it designed for the traffic flow that exists? And is there some warranty or some action that we could maybe put a Band-Aid over it until we're able to really flesh out what happens with the budget and where we are with the paving project?
Okay, noted. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
And it will come before us in 2 weeks for a decision.
All right. Anybody else have any other public forum questions or concerns?
Don't push them.
Not. Okay. We'll close the public, we'll close the public forum and bring it back to our town manager.
I have nothing additional.
Town manager reports? Nothing tonight? Easy. Okay. How about you, Kathy?
No, I have no report.
Ashley?
I do.
All right.
I Ashley Wuspity, manager here for Human Resources and Payroll. I would like to briefly report that I attended the annual Society for Human Resource Management, or SHRM, conference in Orlando last week. The conference brought together over 20,000 HR professionals, business leaders, and public sectors representatives from around the world, actually, to discuss emerging workplace trends, workforce development, employee engagement, leadership, and regulatory updates affecting employers. While I was fortunate to attend as a volunteer, which allowed my conference registration fee to be waived, volunteering also provided unique opportunities to participate in sessions and engage with professionals and thought leaders I may not have otherwise have access to. I appreciate the opportunity to represent the town of Oakland at this event, especially with other Floridian HR professionals that said, where's Oakland exactly? Right on 50, our neighbors. And that said, as the town manager, and I continue working to modernize our strategic plan and strengthen our organization for the future, the knowledge and connections gained from this conference will ultimately help support our employees, enhance organizational effectiveness through best practices, and ultimately advance the town's long-term goals. So I thank all of you for allowing me to attend that.
Thank you. Hi.
I have nothing.
Did a good job on helping Gabby put that together. So
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you. Chief, Deputy Chief, anything good?
We lost one officer at the end of May. We hired a new officer June 1st.
Lost like
He went on
Resigned.
to a bigger agency.
okay.
I mean, we knew where we put him. We didn't lose him. We knew where we put him. But he went on to another agency, and we anticipate this happening again in the near future. There are at least one other that is in the process with another agency, we're going to start to see this happen. We are recruiting as fast as we can to try to get qualified applicants, working with Ashley, and we have, potential. We have a couple others that are in the pipeline. We'll see what happens, but our goal is to stay fully staffed. And aside from that, nothing else.
Thank you. So just so everybody knows what's happening in the agencies, like the police departments and the fires departments as well, there's unions are involved and they're getting increases, and some municipalities are paying their officers more than the surrounding officers. So those guys are basically just jumping ship is what they're doing. They go and get a couple bucks more an hour type thing. So I think for our town, as long as I've been here, it's always just been something that's always happened to a small town like this. They come in either fresh, right, Chief? And they come in fresh from the academy or whatever, and then they, cut their teeth and they go somewhere else, or retired guys that come in.
That's one of the two. Yeah, we'll either get somebody who wants that's their plan when they come here. We ask them to give us 2 or 3 years. Come here, we train them, get them the experience they need, and then they move on to a larger agency. And then the other, we get retirees, that want to stay in the job, but don't necessarily want the hustle and bustle of a larger agency. So they come here, and then we're trying to use them to bring their experience to train the younger folk who do want to leave.
Thank you guys for protecting us and doing everything you do for us. Gabby, nothing from you, Gabby? You're good? No more good
I've
news?
spoken enough.
Good news, sunshine, rainbows, all that stuff? No?
Nothing. I mean, the audit, I guess, like I said, they're going to be presenting July 14th. Ty and I went to the FGFOA conference. We'll probably never go back because there's just no money, but it was a good time.
Debbie,
So, sorry.
See how far she's come from nothing.
Yeah. Sarah, I know Taylor always gives us great updates every week.
Does
it's
he?
2 times.
Big shoes to fill. The only update I really have is that the transmittal for the comp plan amendments to incorporate the Tubb Street overlay has been submitted, and we expect comments back by July 22nd from the state on that.
No comment.
Or no comments, hopefully. So we'll keep you updated as that comes in.
Positive on it. Yeah. Thank you. Jonelle, how are you?
Good, thank you. So just a little bit of updates. So we are starting the drainage part of Star and Mill Hollins. So they're gonna be hopefully starting that work in the next 30 days to put in that drainage. And then we're gonna start getting some more quotes to see if we could try to do something from Mill Hollins all the way up to Tubb Street. So we're still working on that. Me and Scott had a discussion today. We're going to see, once we do millings, what we can do to maintain it going forward, because we know they put them down. I did ask Scott about maybe rolling the millings about a couple of days after they put them down to see if they could solidify and come together instead of, having them, just break apart or whatever. So we're looking into something to kind of maintain those roads once they go down going forward. So that's all I got.
All right. Thank you, sir. And we'll bring it back here to Commissioner Keller.
I just want to say that, I'm going to continue to beat this dead horse until it's dead. But I think we've got some really valuable information this evening. And I think I just ask everyone to please educate yourself and be familiar. Again, that's what we just really want to do. And I appreciate Gabby giving us the information for the projections for the next couple of years on the impact of if this vote should go through in November and how it will impact the town. I think it's important for everyone to have a full understanding. Like she said, we're better off than some places, but things will change. And, we just talked about, the situation with our officers. We kind of know that they come here and they, stay for a few years, but, we've got to stay competitive in what we pay our officers and our town staff. I know I was saying to some folks during the break that our town staff are always here for our town events and things like that. And I know they put in extra hours that they're not necessarily additionally compensated for. And that's wonderful. And I know we love our town events and all of those things. And to keep all of those things, we need to be able to fund them. So I just think it's important to have the information that we've been given this evening. And hopefully we will, figure out our way through the next few years with whatever happens in November. So, but other than that, that's all I have.
For Motley? Nothing? Vice Mayor?
Nope, just want to say thank you between you guys at the police and the town for putting out the thing about poisons and stuff for the animals. We talked about it, and that was pretty dear to my heart. So thank you guys for putting out those notices.
Okay, nothing for me. So, say it.
All hearts and minds are satisfied. We will adjourn.